Hurry up. Let's go.
Ruining the show, Ryan.
Scurvy Rob.
Move along.
It's not scurvy. It's my throat's scratched.
No, that's your pirate
name.
name.
Too much.
Scurvy Rob.
You guys make me do all the talking here. And you don't even give me water.
You got coffee.
That doesn't rehydrate you. That actually makes you more thirsty.
Wah, wah.
You bastard.
This is the AT Banter Podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter.
Like that dramatic pause today?
It was dramatic.
That was dramatic.
It was.
Did you feel the tension?
I did.
You just wanted that. You wanted that. It's like that.
He left me longing for more.
I felt like it was in a Jordan Peele movie.
Get out. What's shaking, fellas?
Oh, let's see what's shaking.
It's wet.
Holy smokes, is it wet? Oh, it's just bucketing down here.
Yeah, it is. We are well into fall.
Summer is
now
officially over here. Although the plants, every tree around is just going, what the hell? You know, I'm green, I'm verdant. It was 30 degrees a week ago. What is going on?
Yeah, no
I haven't even had time to change my leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
It's like taking somebody from a NASCAR race and throwing him into an Oscar party, you know?
I like that.
First Children's Low Vision Project clinic of the year is this week, Thursday, Friday, so the day we post this podcast.
Oh, you're going to be on? Okay.
I'll be at a CLVP clinic.
Where is it?
Langley.
Oh, okay. Well, you're not going out of town.
Exotic Langley.
Yeah, good old Langley.
Yeah. That's not Langley, Virginia. That's Langley, British Columbia.
That's right. You take a deep breath and smell those turkeys.
And cranberries. Don't forget the cranberries.
All right.
Yep, they go with the turkeys.
Do we still have to do this fallback thing? What did they come down on that?
They haven't decided yet.
Daylight savings thing?
They haven't decided.
Didn't they have a big referendum and didn't everybody say, yeah, let's get rid of it?
No, BC's still waiting to see what the other western states are going to do.
Come on. Mm-hmm. Will you please just get rid of this stupid thing?
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
I know.
And that's how big of a pain in the butt is that going to be? Because I guess the problem is that everybody needs to change.
Yeah.
You can't just have one province or one section of North America do it and not have the others do it, because then you've got all kinds of weird time changes.
Yep.
But still.
Okay, it's 9 o'clock in British Columbia. What time is it in Washington State?
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be just more math for us.
Yeah.
You don't need more math.
Nope.
They shouldn't have got us into this in the first place. But no, they should just we should just, come on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Trump, do one thing. Just do one thing of use.
No, it's not even just Trump. Horgan, they're all waffling on it.
So but if the U.S. does it, that we'd follow suit. We'd have to.
Hopefully.
Let's be leaders. Let's be leaders.
Yeah,
let's lead the way.
Listen,
Screw it. We don't care what you do.
Legalized marijuana. Can we not just get rid of this stupid time change?
No, we can't even get ride sharing.
Oh, yes, we can.
Don't get me going with that.
We have ride sharing in Vancouver right now.
Do we?
We do indeed.
Who?
They are called, I just downloaded the app, the first official ride share.
Is this, what are they called?
Cater.
Cater, that's right. Yeah. Which I believe is a taxi company.
Kater.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know a lot about it. I just heard the name.
That's just a messed up. BC is just messed up for this.
Yep.
I mean, they've just screwed this up so badly.
Yep.
But
anyway.
Anyways, hey, Ryan.
Rob.
What are we doing today?
Today we are talking with Ben Schogler from Skoog Music, all about the Skoog.
I mean, it's funny, we're sort of revisiting our first 6 months of the show because I think he was one of our first guests too. We had him on fairly early on in our careers as podcasters. So it'd be cool to see what's going on with Skoog and how it's changed.
See, so there's excitement about the Skoog.
Someone is very excited. Oh, hey, you know what? Let's go a little bit. Let's talk a little inside baseball for people, just because I never know, they might be interested. But the other thing we're doing, Ryan, is what later today after the mics go off.
I believe.
Sorry.
You don't believe. Stop with it. I don't know. I
didn't say that.
You did.
I didn't say I don't know.
Say, do it. What are we doing?
All I've been told is that Mr. Barkley has a song and he's going to attempt to do some recording today.
For what?
So I've had the start of the lyrics for an AT Banter theme song for, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years. And I have an idea of what I want the tune to be, but I've never actually sat down and plunked it out too much. So yesterday, because Ryan's been going through various theme songs using royalty-free music, some of which is entirely too dramatic for, for what we're doing. It sounds awesome. Great. It sounds great, but it sounds like we're taking over
we're getting
the
serious.
Iron Throne or something. In some of them. But
we're epic. Come on.
I know, yeah. But it just doesn't feel like us. So I actually sat down yesterday and I hooked up my recording system. I got the laptop upstairs into the room, got it hooked up to the keyboards. I got my guitar out, plugged it in, and there was a broken pot on my volume pot on my guitar. So I was like, damn it. Pull all the strings off, pull the pot out, fix the pot, put the pot back in, go downstairs to where I think I've got strings, discover, no, those are 12-string strings. Okay, so I picked up some strings for the guitar, went home last night, strung the guitar. As I'm doing the last string, the second to last string broke.
Oh, jeez.
So now I got to restring the guitar again.
Fun.
So I haven't had a whole lot of time to really plunk away on this thing because I got tied up in the technical details. But we'll hammer it out.
Well, even if we can get just a rough guitar track down.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can mess around.
Yeah, and you have lyrics.
I have lyrics.
What did you find that rhymes with idiots? So that's going to be interesting. That'll be fun to do. So we're going to be doing that a little bit later. So, in the coming weeks, who knows? You may hear a new intro theme song.
Yeah, one that will have a cowbell solo. Which Rob will play.
Yes.
He's going to be percussion.
Yes.
And we're going to have a Skoog in it, too.
I like it. I think we should.
Yeah.
I think we should. Ben will love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what? Real quick, before we bring Ben on, though, I did notice that there was an update to one of the stories that we talked about a few weeks ago that I just kind of wanted to hit on real quick. You remember, Ryan, when we were talking a few weeks ago about Audible getting sued by all the book publishers because they were...
generating text?
Yeah, they had come up with this captioning system that would bring up the text of an audiobook as the audiobook was being read to you, and it sort of was being touted as an educational feature to help people say with learning disabilities, or people who are like, say, maybe learning a new learning English as a second language. So it was basically an educational feature. And of course, the book publishers sort of came back and they didn't like that at all because copyright issues over different formats. An audiobook is very different than the printed word, and they want to keep those separate. Well, Audible has responded to these lawsuits, and they are touting that the system is indeed fair use.
Shocker.
And Audible's argument is that the text that's generated, it only comes up like 6 or 8 words at a time as like following along the audio track. The way that the system works is that it takes the audio of that audiobook and it sends it to the Audible servers, which then transcribes it in full and then sends it back to your device. So technically, yes, there is living on your device is a full audio transcribed text version of the audiobook that you're listening to. But
you never have access.
You don't have access to that. Yeah. The only time that you have access to any of those words is, again, 6 to 8 words at a time as the track goes. So it's not like you could just rip that portion out and just use it as a book. There's just no way to do it. So that's their argument anyways. So it will be interesting to see how this court case lands. I mean, I think that book publishers should just relax a little bit. I mean, I get it. You have to be territorial about these things, and everybody wants to get paid. But at the same time, this is Audible trying to do something that is legitimately a piece of AT. Like this is something that can help people who need it, whether it's because of a learning disability or even as easy as something as they're trying to learn English, and this would definitely help them.
Yeah. Book publishers are notoriously paranoid about people pirating their stuff, and you know what? They're paranoid about stuff that never even really happens.
Yeah.
Like, remember when OCR software first was coming out, all of the book publishers were like, oh, everybody's going to OCR our books and then share them online, and people will print out their own copies of the book. Who's going to OCR an entire book and then print out a copy on their own printer?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like, nobody. Maybe it's happened, a couple of times, but it's certainly not going to be something that people are going to do on a regular basis.
No. I suspect that the courts are going to side with Audible on this. I think that this is definitely book publishers are just being litigious because they can. Hey, Steve, why don't you tell the fine folks about Canadian Assistive Technology?
Well, Canadian Assistive Technology is a Canadian-based distributor of, guess what? Assistive technology.
I would not have guessed that.
Really? Oh, I got to work something better into the name then. And we do all kinds of low vision and blindness aids, as well as all kinds of physical access aids and accessible furniture. You name it. Visit our website at www.canastech.com.
Rick, let me ask you about this. Chaos Technical Services.
Chaos Technical Services.
Don't sound so excited about it. Woo! Speaking of repairs.
We are the sister company to Canastech. We do the repairs on low vision devices, reading machines, for libraries, braille printers, and pretty well anything in between. We can be found at www.chaostechnicalservices.com.
Joining us now is Ben Schogler from Skoog.
Morning, Ryan. How are you doing?
Doing well, Ben. How are you?
I'm not too bad. It's been a while.
It's been, I think, 3 years almost to the day. I was looking.
Goodness me.
Really? Did you write it down on the calendar, Ryan?
No, I was looking back at our past episodes to see when we had Ben on last, and it's almost to the day.
Wow, look at you. It's like you planned these things, Ryan.
I didn't plan this one at all.
Why don't we just start out with telling us a little bit about the Skoog itself, how it works, and who it's good for?
Okay. Well, hi there. I'm Dr. Ben Schogler. I'm one of the founders of Skoog Music, and we are responsible for inventing, creating, and supporting something called the Skoog, which is a musical instrument that's created specifically to overcome the barriers that some people might face in accessing traditional musical instruments or music making in general. So it was born out of a government-funded project over in the UK back in 2006, 2008. And then myself and David Scalina, who are as my other founder partner, we began working more widely with schools and children and all kinds of people, anywhere people face challenges in music, to kind of bring the technology to fruition. And then we launched the first Skoog back in 2010, was a USB-based device. And the Skoog is essentially a tactile cube. So it's a squishy box with kind of lovely domed buttons on each side, and they're color-coded. And so it's a soft, interactive interface, essentially. For the musicians amongst you, it's a tunable pentatonic instrument, so it can be set to any kind of notes and scales, but there are 5 notes at a time. And this unique combination of a tactile cubic device that's really inviting to touch and play with, particularly for young children or anyone really. It's these raised buttons on this smooth, squashy surface. They just call out to to press them, and it invites all kinds of interaction. And using this rather interesting looking device, anyone can access music making, play music, and even learn to play in orchestras or create their own music, create loops, do multi-sensory things, do sound effects. There's all kinds of things that have grown over the years since we first launched the Skoog in 2010, where it was originally for emulating orchestral instruments and playing in bands, and now it links to the iPad and do all kinds of stuff. And hopefully throughout our chat I can update you on what's new with the Skoog, what's changed, and maybe share some stories about different way people are using Skoog. It's something that in the original research our brief was to cover as wide a range of abilities as possible, and that's something we still try and do to this day.
Talk to me a little bit about the origin of it. Was it always going to be something that especially given the tactileness? I feel like that's the really unique part of the Skoog that it's squishy and it's very tactile. Was that sort of always the plan, to develop something like that?
So, I mean, the sort of research into this began way back in 2002. But when myself and David were working with schools in Scotland, and we were kind of embedded in classrooms, and we were working in quite high dependency, multiple disability units, and we were working with different bits of technology and sensors and bringing these in and working with students and teachers and trying to get them to interact with the technology. And a lot of the students we were working with were non-verbal. And we found it was very difficult with more traditional technologies. And most technology, like a tablet or a computer or a switch, is hard. You know, it's like plastic or metal, and it's not very inviting to touch. And we noticed with the students working with that they really enjoyed these kind of tactile toys, like these kind of squishies or cuddly toys, or things that had a bit more of a tactile element, a squeezable element. So we began putting some of the sensors we were working with inside these tactile toys, and that's where suddenly things came alive. The young people wanted to interact with these things. They enjoyed that tactile feeling and the way that the sound would then change with it. And actually the way it goes back is it's a very fundamental kind of sense. It's essentially, you as a human being are designed to interact with other human beings. That's your main reason for being, is to hang out with other human beings. And human beings are soft. It doesn't matter how much you work out in the gym, you're still essentially squishy stuff hung on a frame. And that's what we're naturally drawn to interact with, is this tactility. And that's what really drove that. So the interaction with the students, and then we went from there to try and develop a really specific material. And actually that's one of the things that's evolved, since the early Skoog 1, which was made of, we still use polyurethane foam, but it was the new Skoog that we have now is actually even more tactile than it's ever been. So it's softer, but actually more resilient. So it's one of the things that we've been playing with on this journey is trying to refine that tactility, because it is unique, this kind of soft interface. It's the first piece of soft hardware
Great.
that allows this kind of very human interaction. You touch it and you're able to create sound by touching it, and it's just very natural, and as a result it's very easy to play.
Yeah, I was going to ask if Ryan was your prototype, squishy and musical.
Somehow I knew we were going to go there.
We're all musical, and we're all, yeah. That goes for everyone.
It also makes it very durable as well. So it's like it accomplishes a few different things, making it the squishy as you did. Yeah.
So I mean, the squishiness it makes it very durable because of the way we do the sensing. So the sensors are buried deep inside this squishy block, which protects the sensors, but also provides this unique way of tracking the movement. If we had an array of sensors on the outside, then that would be more difficult to make durable. And the durability is an important thing when you're even just in your standard classrooms or anywhere. There's a lot of wear and tear, and you've got and things that people are interacting with through touch, really do take a lot of wear. And so you have to be, a traditional instrument and strings and things, that they need regular servicing, because if you're playing them, using them a lot, they need the upkeep. And so you have to be up for holding your own in this tactile environment. And that tactile materials that we use really are amazing for that. The original Skoog was the white one, which was USB. That was very not prone to, but often it looked quite like a cake. You know, it's quite bright and inviting, and often some students would like to put it in their mouth and explore it that way, and often it would get a bite taken out of it. Now, it wouldn't stop it working, but you know, we'd have to repair, you know, the various parts, and we could replace the buttons and the block and these things. Whereas the new Skoog has got a kind of thick rubber coating on it, like a skin. Now that actually improves it much better durability than the original one, particularly when it comes to oral exploration, which is great. We continue to keep all the doors open in terms of how you can interact with this.
Before we'd sort of dive into talking a little bit about how the Skoog has changed since the last time we talked to you, I'm kind of interested because I feel like a lot of people really don't understand music therapy and just how it works and all the different facets of it. Obviously, music is such a powerful tool in any sort of therapeutic setting. Can you kind of step us through some case studies or some examples of just how something like the Skoog would be used? Who it would be used for?
The thing with, I suppose, is a good place to start in understanding the different ways it can be used is how this kind of cube works in terms of breaking down barriers to music. So through our kind of studies and our travels and working with various different groups, there are two big barriers to making music with instruments. And the first one is a physical kind of skill barrier, coordination needed just to make the sound. So, you know, how to hold it right, pluck it right, put your fingers in the right place, blow in the right way, and, you know, all the different kind of combinations of buttons to press. And so there's a real skill element to just making the sounds. And with the Skoog Cube, all you have to do is touch it and it'll make a sound. And it can be any sound. It can be a guitar, it could be a flute, it could be a crazy space synth. But all you have to do is touch it in some way. It's sensitive all over. So that takes part of the being able to make a good sound. And that immediately opens up various experiences for individuals in terms of just being able to play with sound. So one area where it has been used now, which I think is really interesting, is in early development, where by being able to just play with sound, someone who maybe hasn't had that experience, someone who might be nonverbal or hasn't had that control of their body, then this ability to play with sound through touching this object, it's almost like allowing finger painting with sound or babbling in a way, you know, to be able to play with sound and really play around with that just for fun, making sounds. So making sounds is easy with the device. And the next sounds, when you want to move that into more of a musical framework, it's what sounds to make, so, you know, what notes to play and when and how long and these kind of things. And that traditionally, you know, will take you a long time learning music theory and how these dots and lines work and what key things are in. But what we do with the Skoog is we give 5 notes at a time, one on each side and one on top. And it sits on the base where the electronics are housed. So there are 5 active surfaces, and there's a different note on each surface. And these are tuned to particular notes from what's called a pentatonic scale. Now, what that does is it essentially means that you can improvise or play with any music or any kind of piece of music or music people are playing immediately. It's a bit like being a professional jazz improviser without having to take any lessons. So with, you know, if I'm a bass player, for example, and I've spent a lot of time studying and learning different keys and things. And so when I go and play with a particular group, they say it's in E flat, and I know there are a certain number of notes that I can play around with to make them fit with that piece of music. And what we do with Skoog is we do that with the actual instrument. So when you sit down to play it, it's automatically set to a key where the notes are going to work. So it addresses both the physical and the kind of learning or cognitive challenges you might face in making music. And that unlocks a whole different ways of using it. So there's simply playing with sound and sounds in a kind of fun way of just creating and controlling sound. It can be used for inclusion purposes. So an example would be a school in a sort of elementary class where we had a student with cerebral palsy who wanted to take part in a group band but couldn't physically hold the instruments, and so Skoog enabled her to play, and she was able to play and use traditional score and play with the band. And another student in the same class physically was quite able but faced challenges cognitively in terms of reading and learning music in a traditional way, and she was able to actually use excuse me, colored score, because each side of the Skoog has a different color ring around the button. So each is, you know, you have a blue side, a red side, a yellow side, a green side. each of those relates to a note. And so by doing a colored score, so blocks of color that you can follow, it makes it very easy to play melodies and learn and play with the rest of the band. And so there you have it working in inclusion context to support band or group music making. We've had students use it for moving into more sort of playing in an orchestra and supporting more traditional teaching and learning. More diverse ways it can be used is with to engage maybe nonverbal individuals in more multisensory behaviors. And so you can assign any sound to it. So it doesn't have to be musical sounds or notes. So sometimes you might find someone who likes a particular environmental sound, like latches, door handles, or mechanical sounds that they might engage with. And you can use those and sample those onto the Skoog and then get that person playing with those sounds that they like playing with. And then you can tune them and then sort of build on that to create a kind of musical experience. So everything from elementary education, inclusion, orchestral practice, band work, multi-sensory kind of exploration and soundscapes, or even actually we've had individuals record their own, record vocal samples on it and use it for singing as part of a group. So a really diverse number of ways it can be used. And also recently, we've seen a lot of multisensory kind of applications we built a new app for the Skoog, which is a special sampling app. And that allows you to put sound effects or animal noises. And so you could then use the Skoog in a class to work through a multisensory story and add sound effects of different characters, animals, or actions. And so there's really a whole host of different ways it can be used. And when you're playing with sound and when you provide that interactivity, when you give the student or the player the ability to control and create sounds themselves, and you create a dynamic in that sense, that's where music as a sort of an activity has its real power in including people and providing that kind of social inclusion, interactivity, and opportunity to participate and be part of something.
So just one more sort of design question, because I'm kind of curious. Why the cube? Well, why did you design it that way?
Well, the cubic design came about through a few factors, but the main one was trying to find, we knew we needed it to be tactile. We needed it to be this kind of soft material, and we needed a shape that was easy to hold in the hands. So the one that immediately comes to mind is a ball. A round object is almost probably the most ergonomic, easiest to hold. Something that's round and smooth. But the shape also has to, in particular circumstances, it has to be able to tell you how to use it. So it has to be intuitive. And so with a perfectly round ball, it's difficult to know where do you put the different notes and how do you make them different from each other. So we started to play around with shapes, and sometimes the cubic form is incredibly simple to understand and robust. It's like a really strong. It's easy to understand if you have a visual impairment. So just by using your hands, all the surfaces are at right angles to each other, and it's really easy to understand. This is here and that's there in a very different space, almost in a different axes. It's kind of everything's at 90 degrees. Whereas with more complex shapes like polyhedrons, with like 15 or 12 or however many sides, it starts to become more difficult to work out, where one side starts and another one ends if you're using just touch, and also visually as well. So it's a very robust form and shape. And the other thing with it is, in terms of the design, when we're looking at assigning a single note to a single definable surface that you can see and feel sort of separately, then the cube gives us access to a maximum of 6 sides, but we needed to be able to sit it on a table. So I need to have one inactive side to know which was the bottom, what was the base. And then it gives you an opportunity to have 5 sides. And that unlocks this world of pentatonic scales that open up the opportunity for improvisation and creativity in a really unique way. And so I suppose it's design meets serendipity in terms of the actual form and what it affords in terms of accessing a certain number of notes. And the cube does that, and it just it works. It's easy to use. It's really easy to understand, and it gives enough opportunity to be creative without being daunting or challenging.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, and I have to give you guys a lot of credit. It's one of those things that is such a simple solution to a very complicated problem that once it's been developed, you just go, well, geez, why didn't we think of this a long time ago? Okay, well, why don't we step into a little bit about what's new with the Skoog?
Okay. So in terms of, so we started off with Skoog in 2010, and the original Skoog was USB. It came with Mac or Windows software, a sensitivity range, and it was white with bright colored buttons. And over the years, what's new really is, first thing is it's Bluetooth, it's wireless, and it works with iPad, it works with iOS, which is a huge advance in this arena in terms of being able to make it wireless and have the low enough latency to be usable as a musical instrument. And iPads and iOS is such a great platform for accessibility and supporting in that environment that's really what the users and the teachers and people were asking for, in terms of we want it to work with these devices. So that's big, that's huge. Because it's wireless, it's battery powered. So you might say, well, battery powered things, we have to charge it and all these kind of elements. But the battery on Skoog will give you, over 10 hours full playing time. So we find that it can last up to, if you're using it an hour a day, you'll easily get a week's use out of it. So it's really highly spec'd on the battery side, because we wanted to, make sure that it was something that was really easy to use in a class environment, and you not have to worry about, is it charged? Do I have to put it on to charge every 10 minutes or something? But no, it gives you plenty of playing time. Other stuff that's new is it's got a new look and feel to it. It's, instead of being white with bright primary colored buttons, which really came from one of the groups we were working with were quite young children originally. And when we expanded out to working with older users, the kind of, it had a very kindergarten feel to it. And that was kind of off-putting for older users. So it's now it's kind of got a slick black, almost PlayStation-y look and feel to it. It's still fun, and if you haven't seen the original Skoog, you'll see it, and it's still really appealing to children. You'll think, hey, that looks like a lot of fun. But it for our teens and older users, it also looks quite cool. So we're that's another really important factor. And other stuff that's new is the fact that it has this automatic tuning function. So this is I think what's my favorite feature, and that's, it comes with being integrated into iOS and working with the iPad. One of the things we're able to do is to integrate with iTunes and Apple Music and Spotify as well. And previously, when you were using the Skoog, you'd have to, as a teacher or user, you'd have to be able to know what key a piece of music was in, and then you'd set the key in the software, and then you'd be able to play. Right. And now with the Skoog app, it automatically links into your library, and if you play a song from your iTunes library, it will automatically set the notes on the Skoog to be tuned to the piece of music. So the great thing with this is no musical training required on the part of the Skoog player, or if you're a teacher or a parent supporting someone using Skoog, requires no training or musical knowledge on your part either, and you can play. Anyone can play. And the setup is that need for that, I suppose, that learning curve or that knowledge of music. We take that out and say, right, just go for it. And it works with Spotify. You can stream directly from Spotify into our app, and it will do this auto tuning thing as well. So that's really huge in terms of I think opening up a huge range of music experiences and also content. So if you have a Spotify account, all of your playlists are now your Skoog playlists. So whether you're listening to Billy Ray Cyrus or Beethoven or Mozart or, I don't know, Motorhead, it doesn't matter. All of that is now what you can play with. And that's just, so cool. And the sort of final thing that's new with Skoog is it's a lot more affordable. So the original Skoog was $800 US, a bit more in Canada. And now it's $199 US and just, I think, 240 Canadian dollars. So much more affordable. We've worked really hard on getting the cost of goods down and really improving the build quality. It's more sensitive. It feels better. And it works great, And it also integrates with GarageBand easily. All you have to do is you just open GarageBand, and if you have the Skoog app on, it'll automatically connect through, and you can play with all of the instruments in GarageBand and all those great features there. So this being part of iOS as an ecosystem is just a really huge benefit, because it means that the device can work with all these different apps, and it's just simple, and the workflow is seamless, and the user gets all the benefits of great sounds, great interactivity, and huge opportunity.
So Ben, is it then a MIDI device, or can it be used as a MIDI device?
It is, yeah. So it can be used as a MIDI device. It needs to connect to its own app first. So the Skoog is a controller. It's a Bluetooth MIDI controller, but it's doing some interesting things with the way that the tactility works. And so it kind of has to speak to its own app first on the iPad, but then with iOS can use virtual MIDI. So you just essentially, you connect via our app, and then you choose to turn MIDI on, and it will send that MIDI out into the iPad and be picked up in different devices, or you can then send it from the iPad wirelessly via network MIDI to other devices for music making. And the Skoog is also compatible with macOS, so we have a helper app for macOS that also allows you to connect directly to a desktop or laptop. And so it is a MIDI device, but it does need one of our apps to help handle that MIDI in the system.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously the Skoog is a fairly powerful music therapy device, but have you guys found that you've managed to get traction sort of in the mainstream as well?
That we're starting to see some interesting things happen. In sort of music education, we've seen some interesting applications of music technology. One, there's some music schools in Germany who have been using it to support their woodwind instruction. So clarinet and flute, when young people start playing those instruments, they can't practice for a long period of time, because it's very hard work to get what they call the embouchure, which is how you hold your lips to make the sounds. So you can't practice for a long time, because it takes a while to build up these muscles. Right. So they have been using Skoog as a support device. So the students practice with their clarinet, say, and when they get tired, they switch to the Skoog playing a clarinet sound, and they're able to still practice the pieces of music that they're trying to play. So they're still practicing the musicality, the expression, and the rhythm without the demand of having to do it with their mouth, or with the strain and the muscle stress that goes with that. So they're able to keep learning and keep playing, and then to build up the kind of more physical side as they go. We've seen it used for beatboxing courses by using samples of beatboxing to kind of come in on that. And in terms of more wider performance, we're starting to see some interesting applications coming through. We've seen it used for composition workshops in kind of the classical kind of space, by challenging young composers to see what they can do with 5 notes. And we're hoping to see, after we've been around for a while, some, people who have begun their Skoog journey start to come through, hopefully as artists, and see some traction there. So it's early days there in a way, but we're certainly seeing some green shoots, and hopefully we'll have some interesting things to share in the not too distant.
Now, in terms of going forward, are you guys looking at sort of other designs or sort of offshoots of the Skoog? Or are you guys just focusing on continuing to evolve the Skoog as it is?
Well, no. So we're looking at a couple of things. So 2 things that are on the horizon and big. One is we do have a new kind of iPhone or phone, a smaller device that brings this tactile interactivity for music into mobile devices, and it's called a Switch, and that's a kind of 1-button musical instrument. It's different, and it's exciting, and we're kind of evolving that platform at the moment. Because it's a smaller, and it's also a passive device, so it's something that uses the onboard sensors of your iPhone to create this tactile interactivity via a soft button that clips onto the phone. So it's cheaper. It's a different thing, and we're evolving that platform. So that's something we're really excited about. And then for Skoog itself, one of the things we're looking at now is additional connectivity. So we're looking at Chromebooks and Android, and we will have we've got early kind of connectivity we've got beta kind of versions we're playing around with at the moment, and we're hoping to be announcing Chromebook connectivity very, very soon, actually, and looking to help build in that area. One thing that's really exciting is a platform called Soundtrap. I don't know if you're aware of this, which is essentially a digital audio workstation in a browser. So this allows you to run a kind of multi-track studio on a Chromebook, which is amazing. And what we're working on is connectivity to allow you to connect Skoog into that. And there's lots of educational versions as well, with lots of material there for educators that have subscriptions and stuff. But as a free platform, in the same way, GarageBand is free on iOS, it provides a kind of a place to start on Chromebooks for doing kind of creative music applications. So we're looking at that. And I suppose the other really exciting news for us is that we now have an office in the US, which is a bit closer to you guys and to our customers over the other side of the Atlantic, and that's in Denver. So we are, really looking to support our customers over in the US and in Canada, and be closer to them and be able to create new resources and share those with you guys, and just be on hand where necessary. One thing that's maybe of relevance to listeners is so it's worth checking out our website. We also have been updating the resource side of what's offered alongside Skoog in terms of resources for activities or kind of teaching plans or different kind of support materials. So that's always an area where we're looking to kind of expand as well, and just find out the different ways people are using things, and then share that with the community. So that's a really interesting area of development for us as well. And sometimes that can take us in new directions. And I suppose one of the examples of what that's done is when we first launched the new Skoog 2 for the iPad, we had assumed that there would be a sampling app out there that we could plug into via MIDI, in the system and use, but it didn't work out like that. So the community was really keen to get this kind of sampling activity, which is the ability to record your own sounds in and use them simply to assign a sound effect or an animal sound or a vocal sound to a different side of the Skoog and play it back by touching it. And so we got that feedback and interacted with our users, and so we pulled up our sleeves and coded like the wind and created an app called Scratch, which is a bespoke sampler for Skoog, and it's it's very popular. It's amazing what you can do with it. Just there's some, you can go out for a walk with your phone and record environmental sounds, and then just airdrop them to your iPad and start playing them with the Skoog and start creating. I think what's really exciting about that is the fact that you can. Not only can anyone create music with Skoog, you can also create music from any sound.
Right.
Because as soon as you start playing with it, and sort of by playing around with it and the way that the cube is, it starts to create a sequence or a pattern by the different ways you touch it, and immediately you start to get musical things happening.
You can just create your own soundscape.
Yeah.
So that must be a really exciting aspect for you guys, because, and I think it's like this for a lot of creatively based products, is that you put this thing out there in the wild, and then you sort of never know what the community is going to come up with or what users are going to come up with, and they're using these in ways that you guys never even conceived of. So a lot of times it sounds like you take some of those ideas and you just kind of run with them in the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, we're a very focused kind of team, and we try and keep in touch with users, and we're always, we're with the software side of things, we're always evolving things. There's always things that can be changed or need changing, in terms of the way that iOS will update and different platforms will update. So you need to keep different libraries will change. So you need to keep on refining your code and how it works, and so that means that we're always trying things. We're always trying new things, and the community is always, there's always talk and exchange, and if people get in touch, we're really keen for them to share and to share with them as well, to get that feedback. So it's a great opportunity more than anything else to kind of once you've got technology in the hands of users to really, to see what happens and how it gets used, like you say. And sometimes that's surprising, and sometimes, and then sometimes people really enjoy a feature that you add, and that's great as well. And sometimes you need to refine it. So and I think the way that technology has evolved, so quickly over the last 10 or 15 years that, people are keen to give their feedback as well. And there's all the social platforms now as well, where people will share experiences or make suggestions for things, which is great as well. It's just, it's easier than ever for people to get in touch and to, be able to contribute in that way, which just is great for us.
It sounds like, when you guys first developed both the app and the Skoog, you really developed for iOS. And it really works. Sounds like it works seamlessly in that ecosystem. Mm-hmm. So is it a real development challenge to try to say port that whole experience over to something like Android? I mean, I know you mentioned that it's in the beta.
Well, it depends on what you're doing. So for us, we originally with Skoog One, we were originally Windows and Mac back in 2009, 2010 where we started, and they were the main platforms that were there. And as we evolve things, with Windows machines that were out, the difficulty there as a developer is knowing what's in the machine. The hard, different Windows machines from Dell or from IBM or whoever it is, they've all got different parts. So the sound card will have a different spec, and that's one of the things with the PCs. You can change it, upgrade it, and do these different things. But for a developer, for us, that's a real challenge because we don't know what's in your machine. Whereas with the Mac side of things, the spec is, there is variability, but we kind of it's less. So we know what the hardware is, and we can program and code to deal with that. So we did used to support Windows, but we also found it was being used less, particularly in education over the years. And we saw, from 2012 onwards, the move towards different platforms, iOS being a major one. And for us in music as well, iOS and macOS has always or has grown and is in many ways the more popular platform for music making and music applications, right. For a variety of reasons. And for us as a company with a certain resource base, we chose to work with iOS for those reasons. But more as well on the accessibility side, the iPad and iOS has had so much built into it in accessibility that it's such a great tool in that arena. And that's when you're looking at trying to make music more accessible, it's just such a sensible place to start. Right. And the fact that GarageBand is almost built in there, and those right. features, it just makes sense for us to kind of work within that. When you talk about then going from there and making a move across to Android and then Chrome and things like that, it depends what you're doing. For us, we're working with Bluetooth MIDI, and that is a challenge again, hardware wise, for different devices. So yes, there's Android is great, but it covers a wide range of hardware. A lot of different manufacturers, a lot of different parts, and a lot of different specs. Whether it's a tablet, a phone, or a laptop like a Chromebook device. And so again, it's just about trying to establish what those hardware requirements are for a device like ours, and trying to make it work with as support as many devices as possible. So it's a scale consideration, I think, really. Right. But we're pleased with the progress we've made with Android and Chrome so far, and we're looking forward to announcing something around that very soon.
Have there been any studies done with the Skoog to determine outcomes? Yeah,
I mean the original research. I mean the 2 years embedded research that we did with Nesta, that was very much research based, and there's some bits and pieces dating back now from that output. It's featured in various studies in music therapy. There was a recent one that just came out, published in Europe, on accessible music devices. It was a kind of overall review. It's featured in a variety of things, quite often used in kind of hands-on projects, maybe PhD dissertations around music technology kind of reviews in terms of music technology and education. So there's research out there that is ongoing, and we find new things every day that people are doing with it, and so it's worth having a look around. We've learned so much over the last 10 years, all the different people who have interacted with us and played Skoog and created some amazing music and had some amazing times. And maybe just leave with a couple of stories that we found recently. And one was from an educator in Spain who's visually impaired herself and works with students with visual impairment. And she's been working with Skoog, and it's really exciting. And she actually was working with a student and enabling them to play. And the student turned to her and started talking about whether she felt that the buttons were colored. And this young person had never seen the Skoog because of her visual impairment, and they had a chat about it. And so she'd started it almost conveyed the color through the sound in a way. It's an amazing kind of sensory kind of exchange. So that's lovely. And then another really exciting sort of development and story is actually one of the other things that we've been doing in the last kind of couple of years is working on the coding side as well with Apple. We were part of the connected devices project for Swift Playgrounds, which is Apple's amazing learning to code platform on iPad. And Skoog now has its own playground, so you can learn how to code your own musical instrument for Skoog and learn a bit about music theory, learn a bit about MIDI, learn a bit about coding in that. And that's really a really interesting development. And I was speaking to a teacher the other day he was working with a student who'd been doing some playing around with Swift Playgrounds, and he created some sounds, and he said to his teacher that this was how music sounded in his dreams. So that was pretty cool and great to be a part of these different ways that people are exploring sound and connecting with technology, whether it's through music, through kind of multi-sensory soundscapes, or through coding now, and looking at how you're actually creating things using code and different levels of interactivity. It's a great way to connect with people, and we're really excited to be part of that.
Where can people find Skoog online?
You can find Skoog online if you go to skoogmusic.com, and we've got various links out from there where Skoog is available on Apple. It's available on Amazon in Canada as well, and all over the world. And like I say, if you go to skoogmusic.com, all the information is there. And if you're in North America, you can also connect with our US office. There are details on our website.
Ben, thanks again for joining us, and thanks for sacrificing your dinner hour to talk to us.
That's no problem at all. Thanks for chatting. And
let's have you on again. Maybe when you guys are a little bit closer to the rollout for the new version. Yeah. Well, as soon as we've got some information about Chrome and Android, I will ping an email out and let you guys know, because I think that'll be really exciting. All right. Thanks, Ben. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
It sounds like they've really refined the software part of it. To be honest, that first generation of software was a little clunky to use. And there's some connectivity issues that I remember having with it, right?
But we've always been using it in Windows too.
That's true.
And
That's true.
it sounds like they've really thrown in on iOS and Apple. It's a platform that's made more for music.
Absolutely, and that's why when he was talking about that, it does make sense when you think of all the things that you can do so easily in that Apple ecosystem, like AirDrop sounds and move between Mac OS and iOS, and
even the tools for recording, like Pro Tools, Logic, have been kind of the industry leaders even for the blindness community when it comes to music production for years.
Yeah, and it must be just a dream to develop for that ecosystem, because everything is so integrated and works together. Whereas something like Chrome or even Android, you're working with all these different manufacturers, different apps that have to work together that may not really want to work together. So I could see where it makes sense for them to really be heavily invested in the iOS. I can understand it.
Yeah, I think the Chrome and Android probably more than anything is just because it's so prevalent in education now. You really need to be part of that if you're directing your product towards education.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would be willing to bet that in 90% of the cases where people are going in and dealing with music therapy, that they're dealing in an iOS or Mac environment.
But yeah, I mean, great. It is a really cool device, and I can see a lot of potential for it definitely in the education and music therapy realm. The fact that, I'm always fascinated with the development process. And I know I ask a lot of development questions, and you guys indulge me, but like, I'm just fascinated by like how something goes from just an idea, on paper to a fully fledged, really slick tactile cube like the Skoog, and it's fascinating how it all sort of comes together. Because he's absolutely right. When you think about a cube, it's so perfect. And five sides, pentatonic scale, boom.
Yeah.
It's like it all just sort of falls together and into one really slick package. So.
Yeah. I was thinking, we're planning to embark on trying to record a theme song for the program following this recording.
I know.
And we need to make the Skoog part of that, right?
We should have broken out the Skoog. We could actually sample.
We can. Yeah, we can.
We still can. The song won't be done today.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're just gonna muck about today, but
I mean, we could sample a cowbell.
Yeah,
you've got a real cowbell.
Well, we could sample it.
We could sample. And then we could do it in different. We could do a pentatonic scale of cowbell.
That's right.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah, that's maybe we should have a Skoog on hand for those days when Steve's not here and we don't have the cowbell player.
There you go. Yeah, just do a cowbell sample and you just thump the Skoog.
Oh, awesome. Anything else, boys?
Not for me.
No. Mr. Yanni over there.
I'm tired the last couple of days.
Hey, how was that pumpkin spice tea latte?
It's pumpkin spice dishwater.
Yeah?
So it's not great. It's all right. It's not great.
Yeah. See, there you go. Screw you, Timmy's. I had to wait in line for 15 minutes to get that thing. Well, it's crazy. Oh, don't even get me started.
I tell you, my regular double double coffee here without any pumpkin flavoring is marvelous.
Yeah.
So no endorsement for Timmy's here at AT, unless they want to.
Well, you're not endorsing them?
No. I'm so annoyed with Timmy's. Timmy's is, I have a bad experience with Timmy's every time I walk in there.
Is that right?
They're understaffed. They've tried to have too much on their menu. Their donuts are terrible because they're all frozen.
Yep.
The food's not great. The service isn't good. It's gone downhill. And I don't blame the staff because I feel like the staff is they're understaffed. They're expected to make all these iced drinks and.
Is it just that franchise, that one location, or are you finding that
it's
multiple?
All of them.
Is it?
It's all of them. Yeah.
It's everywhere.
I don't eat at Timmy's anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I ever do with Timmy's is drive-through coffee. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was always on board with Timmy's coffee. I always loved it more than Starbucks, and now it's gone the other way. I'll go to a Starbucks before I go to Timmy's.
Go to Mickey D's.
Well, here's a fun fact. Years ago, I guess apparently what happened is that when Timmy's was bought out, they changed their coffee distributor, and they dropped their coffee distributor at the time. And guess who picked that up?
McDonald's.
McDonald's.
Yeah. Oh, is that right?
Yep.
McDonald's is
funny.
actually old Timmy's.
Oh, that's funny.
Coffee.
Huh.
So that's why it's kind of better. Because older is better, right, guys?
Well, I know I keep getting better.
That's right. Except at squats.
Yeah.
Not getting better at squats or sit-ups. Hey, Ryan.
Rob.
Where can people find us?
atbanter.com.
They can also drop us an email if they so desire. cowbell@atbanter.com.
And, we're just all over that social media. We're everywhere. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. Well,
What else do you need?
not everywhere.
What else do you need? What else is there? Really?
Pinterest.
Pinterest.
We still haven't figured that one out. Reddit.
Well, it's not really social media, but we could be on Reddit. We could create a subreddit.
Google Plus.
Maybe we'll create a subreddit. I wonder what's involved in creating a subreddit.
We can't even post to Facebook and Twitter. We don't
Shut
need
up,
another
Ryan.
thing.
Listen, Negative Nelly.
We don't need another forum.
Shut up and drink your... It's
all gone.
All right. Well, that is going to about do it for us this week. Thanks, everybody, for listening in. Thanks to Ben from Skoog for joining us. And we will see everybody next week.
Banter. This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canasstech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com.
Whoa, look at that. Master of the one take.